Hello. Hello. Anyone around here speak basketball?
Paging Bobby Webster.
This is Adam Silver.
Trust in Messiah. Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Freddie Rivas. And who, sir, in all denim on a hot day are you?
I'm your producer, Matt Duncan. And yes, I just had to do an audition for a 70s bartender, and this is the best I could come up with. So full denim. See what happens.
Yeah, man. Interstate 79. Shout out to people who grew up on dial-up computer like me. A weird old reference.
Yeah,
if you're Gen Z, listen, we got references for you too. I'm so sorry. This is a Raptors / NBA podcast. We're with Raptors Republic. We're hardcore fans, analysts, comedians. Basically, if you're a sports / Raptors nut, you're welcome on the pod and you're in the right place. If people want to help us out, if they want to like make our podcast massive and a chart on iTunes, I guess, how can they do that, Maddie?
Well, if you're watching these segments on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate that on Raptors Republic. And if you want to hear the full episode, go to the Rapcast on your favorite podcatcher. I don't care if it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. We don't discriminate here.
Sure.
And if you can rate on those things, do it. If not, just sit back, kick it, listen, have a good time.
Wow, Maddie. I like it. You should like unbutton one more of those buttons because that was smooth. Yeah, we got a really fun pod today. Incredible guests. I'll say, as I always do, or you mean the last little while anyways, check out the Pickup, a WNBA podcast with me and Catherine. We're always, appreciative of support and, get into women's basketball. It's amazing. And I will also say free Brittany Griner. It's if it's something you're not familiar with, just Google it, check it out. It's not a good situation, and anything you can do or say is appreciated. But Gary, I'm going to start with you. I think anyone who's a Raptors fan is pretty familiar with, nonstop trade rumors that favor other teams more than they do us. This one in particular, Gobert's obviously a superstar. I'm not exactly sure of what the rumor was with Portland, but they're coming for OG now. They came for Pascal. There was some Nick Nurse to the Lakers rumors. Obviously, we remember when Masai was for sure gone as a GM. But, I guess I just want to indulge a little bit. It is the summer. So, yeah, do you think there is any logic to clearing a runway for Scottie? I guess speeding up the process of making this his team. Like, is that something that makes sense to you? Is that shooting ourselves in the foot? Like, well, what do you make of that, idea, I guess?
I think people are quick to, jump to those kind of conclusions. I think what we're trying to do right now, I think they need to do that for another year. And then if they see that it doesn't work, or, they want to make changes, then you look at more drastic moves like that. To me, when people are talking about, let's, move out OG and, or OG and Gary for this guy or whatever, I'm like, the last thing we need to do is move out two guys for one guy. Like, our biggest issue is a lack of depth. Mm-hmm. It's funny because you guys were talking about bench mob on Jay's shirt, and I was like, what name should we have for them though? Because right now they're not a bench mob. You know what I mean? They're just like, they're a motley crew of guys who,
They're guys that make up a bench.
Yeah. So it's like, I think we lack depth. I think moving out, two of our top 5 or 6 guys to get one guy doesn't make sense for us as a team. And I think it's possible. I think Scottie's the future, but I like what we have. I think, I just don't see value in a move like that. I think if you're looking, look, obviously if Messiah and Bobby are playing chess in some way and it's 2 guys out for one incredible guy and a free agent you're bringing in, so it's really a 2 for 2. Yeah, that's a different story. But like based on cap management, I don't see, when everyone was talking about, Ayton and all this kind of stuff, it's like that guy wants a ton of money. We're going to go way over the cap for a guy like that I don't think would have a major impact on, changing the dynamic of our team. I don't see there being a lot of moves out there that make us better than we are as we are. I think you probably try to improve, at the 5 a little bit and find a better shooter. And that's about it. Like, I don't see a reason to move any of those guys this year. I guess, though I think considering that concept later makes sense because the cap is what it is,
For sure. No, I mean, I agree like 1,000%. And let me just kind of ask you like a quick follow-up. Like, I feel like you covered everything, as far as like this year, we kind of like did better than we expected. Next year, we're still developing. We're still, chemistry, that sort of thing. We don't have, we're not like overflowing with assets. And, I think people are trying to game the system too much if they're thinking about like, well, OG's mad. He doesn't have enough touches. It's like, to your point, we're not even really there yet. And I think that it's a fun idea to imagine having like a perfect runway to a championship where we're like, this team is like a full contender, but you just don't get there by making, I've said this a million times, but like, this is kind of Colangelo logic and we have Masai. So Masai is about winning. Colangelo's, I guess about making noise. And I think that's just, we're about winning. And that's not really,
you look at
how you do that. But sorry, let me just ask you, Gary, if there was a guy, obviously not Scottie, like, is it OG in this concept that's like a year down the line sort of thing? Is it Trent? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it could be Trent. It could be Freddie. If this 6'9" thing is where you want to go, and maybe it's, you're not going to be able to keep everyone at a certain point simply based on the need for extensions. I wish Gary's deal was 3 years and not 2 in a player option, because I feel like he'll opt out, and maybe that makes him the guy you have to move if you can't sign him. But our issue, you look at Boston. I mean, the difference between them and us is guys 6 through 8. It's not real
for sure.
I like our starting 5, and when we were healthy, we were winning games. I know the regular season is different than the playoffs, but look at how we played. I mean, the playoffs are, you line up against the right team, it's the right matchup for you, and you have the right guys, and everybody's healthy. Like, Gary was sick, Fred was obviously not healthy. It's like I just feel like I'd be willing to risk keeping, the entire group together. And like I said, trying to find those guys that, I mean, you've seen a few times in Boston, their 7th guy comes off the bench and like, hits like 5 threes or something. And you're like,
totally.
White or whoever it is that they're bringing into the game. You're like, what's going on? Like, we just never had a guy to do that. And, Norm was a guy like that for us before, to just change the energy of the game. If you were like in a lull, at least he was like driving and cutting and like, I thought having Young was great for sort of that, like, the high pass that we used to see from Marc Gasol, like threading the needle to someone cutting. And he started doing that with Boucher. And it felt like it gave us one other type of offensive play we didn't have before that combo. And it's like, it got really, we were seeing a lot of ISO ball. So like, you just need those other guys to create a more dynamic offense. And we just didn't have it.
I couldn't agree more. And I think bringing up Boston is a good example. Like you need the Grant Williams, you need the Pritchards, you need the Whites, you need whatever Al Horford. You need the surrounding guys and our core guys, which I think just going from Masai and Nick of Precious, Scottie, Fred, Gary, OG, and Pascal. Like those 6. I think we're rolling with those guys, and until, like you said, until contracts are kind of force us one way or the other, I think that's what's going down. And we're worrying about 7 to 10.
I could be wrong, but I think
you're right.
I know just about this point I want to make is that I think, like the super team thing is kind of dead for the generation that got used to doing it because they're too old to combat the energy and enthusiasm and youth of the next generation. Now, in a couple of years, a bunch of those young guys might all team up on a team, and now you have the next generation of super team. But right now, we're seeing teams that are built as teams, playing as teams, with different kind of role players on them, all having more success than a bunch of like last generation's guys trying to go get together and beat guys. Because I feel like since the 2019 Raptors, everyone started playing defense hard again,
For sure.
And that energy wears down those guys. So I feel like we're in that transitional phase where like, maybe in a couple of years when contracts are up, you're going to see like, Luka and I don't know, whoever, like all these young guys, like maybe join up and like make some new generation super teams. But like, I feel like right now is a great window to just build a team properly,
Yeah, like again, I totally agree. I think well, look at the finals, right? MA is playing everyone's moving the ball. Obviously, Kerr's nickname is Kumbaya Kerr. He's playing Bielitsa, Wiggins, Poole, Looney. It's like the G State. Even I think if you follow them, it's like they started with this kind of like holistic, everyone's equal approach, went to the super team, and then now they're kind of going back. So I totally agree. Okay, Jay, what's your take on just, beyond being annoyed by like rumors or whatever, like, do we need to is there any logic to clearing a runway for Scottie? And, if you, gun to your head sort of thing, like you had to think about moving one of these 6 guys or 5 guys, I guess, because not Scottie, who is it?
Yeah, no, and the point about, and I agree with everything you guys have mentioned, and I am going to bring up Boston and Golden State again, but with OG and the rumors, I think this is the unofficial kickoff to off season for us. Like this is what we're going to get used to hearing over the next couple of months leading up to and just after the draft. After the free agency opens on July 1st, is that we're going to hear a lot of these rumors, and the key words in this recent article about OG's discontent is that he's not actually ever really expressed discontent with the franchise, and that the wording around his availability is more so coming from rival front offices as opposed to the Toronto Raptors themselves. So this is the kind of thing you're going to hear a lot of, and we should just get used to it, right? And I guess be prepared to poke holes in some of the things that you see. As it pertains to Scottie Barnes and this runway, I can't help but think about the Golden State Warriors and the way that they're constructed. Think of Draymond Green's role on that team, right? He is an enabler. He enables Curry and Clay and Poole and Wiggins and all of them to do their thing because he's their glue guy. Mm-hmm. That is the role I foresee for Scottie Barnes, and that's the role that he can play. And with the surrounding cast around them, with OG knocking down from 3 and Pascal doing his thing in the lane and Fred hitting outside shots, that's how these are all going to work. So while there is some sentiment that there is some duplicity here with Scottie and OG and Pascal and Vision 6ix9ine, I don't necessarily think that means that we got to get rid of one of them. And I guess in this case, it would be OG and free up space for Scottie to do his thing. I think that they can all coexist in a way that will work, right? And bringing up Boston as an example, they have couple of times in this specific iteration made it to the conference finals and not gotten over the hump. There have been rumors about Marcus Smart wanting out or being traded. There have been rumors about Jaylen Brown being on the trading block. This is what you've got to endure. And what Boston has endured is, okay, we've gotten past all this. We've gotten past the rumor stage. We are sticking to this core. And now look at what it's gotten them, right? It's gotten them to the NBA finals. And that's where Toronto is right now. You stick with this core of 6, build or add some extra pieces here and there, and you're sitting gold, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that we've seen today. And you referenced it already, that this was a rebuilding year, but one in which the Raptors overachieved. And why? It's because they finally got to play in Toronto. It's because they finally got to generate some kind of chemistry. And then another year of this, I mean, you've already seen Scottie Barnes' off-season workout videos. I hate those things, but at the same time, I love it when it has to do with the Raptors, because then I'm a total hypocrite with it. So you're going to see this team continue to gel. And, I agree with Gary. Like, there's not really a ton that you can really do here. The cap is what it is. Just let this thing ride out, man. This is what it should be.
Yeah, I mean, great points. And obviously the videos from the offseason are always funny because it's like an NBA star shooting over a guy like me. And if people are like, whoa, this is crazy. And it's like, no, he could but I mean, it's still nice to see. And like you said, it's all we have, right? So I think that's kind of what summer basketball talk is. We got to get excited about the draft, and then summer league, and then preseason. It's all kind of like a build up to the real thing. Even the regular season versus the playoffs is, obviously a substantial difference. But, I want to touch on your kind of like duplicity point. And I think that's a great example of why, I wanted to bring this question up, is because there's always this idea that redundancy or duplicity or whatever, or the same qualities in a team is inherently bad, as opposed to being like a stylistic advantage, which is just silly to me. I mean, and I can't help but think, I feel like I've said some version of this before, but as Toronto fans, we should really be familiar with this idea of giving a young guy too much responsibility too quick, with Vince, with Bosch. And, I don't want Barnes to have too much on his shoulders right away. I don't want him to, want to go to Miami or LA when he's up for, like when he can take off. Like I want him to be, kind of like in a Kawhi style situation where he's mentored by great players and is able to integrate himself, to the point where if he gets injured, let's make sure we believe him so he doesn't get discontent like Kawhi. But you know what I mean? Like, I think that's kind of what I hope for. I feel like we're the type of franchise to do it. I think that's what Masai is going for. And agreed on all accounts. I think we're all on the same page. And this is Raptors news, right? I had to bring it up. But okay, let's stick with you, Gary, just for this last one here. But you're kind of alluding to it. So I assume Boston, but Boston, Golden State finals, like do these teams being in the finals surprise you? And what's your prediction?
I guess it's not. I mean, I thought Miami was going to be there, or like I probably would have put the Bucks or Miami ahead of Boston in terms of coming out of the East.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm not entirely surprised by Golden State. Their path was, they had a pretty, it played into their favor a little bit. Their path to get there. I guess I want Golden State to win.
Everyone's just like, I guess I hate Boston still, like.
I just, and also they feel more like, in terms of team construction and building the team internally and all that that's the stuff we're doing. And they're maybe just like a year or two ahead of us in terms of that. And so I'm glad to see that can work, but also fuck those guys. So
yeah, right.
I don't know it's like that. You can
you can
out, Matty, but
Boston.
So like, at least Golden State winning, it's like, yeah, man, there's Hall of Famers on that team, and I'm hoping they can shoot the lights out, but I don't know. Like both teams actually had great defense this year, so I think they were the top two defenses. So I don't know. I'm gonna pick Golden State, but who knows?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like exactly. I think Boston. Obviously, I rag on them like all the time, but credit where it's due. I'm happy for Al Horford. The team's fairly, it's a group of pretty likable guys. It's a likable brand of basketball. And Golden State, like, I'm not sure if you were alluding to this, but I think Phoenix going down the way they did sort of altered the chemistry. Like I remember, when it was Dallas, Golden State, sort of hearing people being like, oh, who's going to win that? And I'm like, I don't know, like Golden State in 5, it's like 6, maybe if something goes bad, but like, it's not the same. Like I know Phoenix had that incredible Goliath record, but yeah, after, Phoenix and Memphis went down, I was kind of like, there's no one really left in the playoffs that I think can contend with Golden State. And they've done that perfect dance of sort of keeping everyone healthy enough. Clay keeps getting better. They have the emergence of, role players, and a guy like Wiggins is like at his best. And I joked on Twitter, Golden State in 3, but I do think that, I might even call a sweep here, and maybe that's just because I have to root against Boston and I'm just so insanely biased. But I really do think that, they're incredible defenses, and we'll see. Like I could be wrong here, and maybe it's a tight series, but I will be shocked if Golden State loses this.
We've seen when Golden State shooting is a little bit cold, and that can happen, but not for a whole series, I don't think. So
no, and I think Golden State, they have counters too, right? Like, I was talking about this on recently, like maybe it was last episode or the one before, but they're not just shooting the 3. Like they can hit the 2, and they just have a really comprehensive kind of like system going down. And yeah, they can light you up from 3, but they can also just like kind of like slow the game. They can just do so many things. But again, I've really been down on Boston nonstop. So maybe this is just a situation where I can't see straight. But Jay, what's your take on this? Do you think are either teams surprise you? Who do you think is going to win the series?
I'm going to shout out my own pod here. All 3 of us on the pod all predicted Boston to make the finals.
Nice.
So we all saw a lot of faith. We had a faith, I guess, in their defense, and it's kind of shown up at very important times. So Boston making the finals. I had Boston over Phoenix, so obviously I was off there. But
okay,
I think that Boston is actually not the surprise for me. I didn't even have Golden State making it to the conference finals.
Wow.
So I guess Golden State, by that metric, is my surprise team. Having said that, I think that I agree with you guys in terms of like Golden State has this incredible firepower, but for me, defense wins championships, and I'm going to stick to my predictions before the playoffs that Boston's #1 defense will win out. I know that.
Wow.
I've lost a bit of faith in I think my original pick was like Boston in 6 over Phoenix, but I think I'm going to go 7 here only because it's like, man, they almost choked it against Miami, right? They really almost did, like losing game 6 at home and almost choking away game 7. It gives me a bit of hesitation here to continue sticking with Boston as the winner. So I will very hesitantly say I'll stick to Boston winning, but I will say this. I'm totally rooting for Golden State. I love what they've got going. It also helps the Raptors in an inadvertent way as like the only team to the team that stopped them from the 3-peat, and when they're fully healthy, like only the Raptors can beat them. Like that's everything about Golden State winning helps the Raptors agenda is what I'm trying to get at. So give me Golden State to win as who I'm rooting for. But in terms of, statistically, if I had to, put money on it, I'd put on the Celtics.
I love it. This is good podcasting. Gary, I feel like you got something.
Well, it was so funny because it makes me want to go back to the question about like another big thing that happened in the playoffs, or like a big moment that had an impact. And I'm like, I want to go all the way back to the bubble and be like, yo, I wish we beat Boston that series.
I know.
Because I think we would have been a different team. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
Matchups matter, man. Like again, I look at your hat and I say, if the Leafs faced any other team, they're in the Stanley Cup Finals facing the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that's your Stanley Cup Finals, right? I think about the Raptors, right? You face any team other than the Celtics, you're possibly a finals team, right? So it is what it is. And Norm made the exact same move on that breakaway, and Marcus Smart blocked him. But I'm not bitter. Who's bitter? Who's still dwelling on this?
Who's bitter? Very specific reference, but who cares? Kyle foul trouble in the bubble. Who cares, right? Who remembers, right? No worries.
No one's keeping track.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I wish Nurse played Rondé Hollis, Jefferson, and Boucher. No worries.
Yeah. We're not dwelling on this.
Yeah, no, I kid. He rightfully so did not play our Rondé Hollis, Jefferson. But
Listen to full episodes of the Confederacy of Dunks only on the Rapcast.